Hi guys, it's KevyDog4. This is going to be my first video of a series of NFL videos. I'm going to do a predictions and a results video for each week of the NFL season. Yes, I know this video is almost 3 weeks behind, but no, I have not changed my predictions. I promise these are what I predicted before week 1. I wrote them down. I just haven't had time to put a video together in the past couple weeks. I've been really busy. So hopefully I'll be able to get caught up soon, considering my hectic schedule. So I'm just going to get started. So this is my week 1 predictions video. The Thursday night game, the first game of the season, was Denver versus Carolina. I predicted Denver to win this game because this was a rematch of the Super Bowl. And in the Super Bowl, the teams pretty much stayed the same core for the most part for both teams. But Peyton Manning left the Broncos. He retired, obviously. But in that game, he was on his last legs, and the rest of the team carried him through that game, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. So I predicted Denver winning this game. The Sunday games, Minnesota versus Tennessee. Teddy Bridgewater was injured before the season started. He tore his ACL, so he's out for the season. The Titans, they just have Marcus Mariota. I don't know very many people on the Titans. DeMarco Murray's on there, I believe. And I picked Minnesota to win this game because even though Teddy Bridgewater's out, Minnesota still made the playoffs last year. Teddy Bridgewater's not the whole team. And I figured whether they started Sean Hill or Sam Bradford at the quarterback, I figured they'd still be able to beat Tennessee. So I predicted Minnesota to win this game. Chicago versus Houston. I picked Houston for this game because Chicago has been consistently a not very good football team for the past several years since Jay Cutler joined the team. And Brock Osweiler was just added to the Texans roster, and he led the Broncos to the Super Bowl as well. And so I picked Houston because I saw them as an all-around better team than Chicago. Cleveland versus Philadelphia. This one, it was a battle of two quarterbacks that one hadn't played in a while, which was Robert Griffin III. He did not play at all last season. Philadelphia, Carson Wentz is the number 2 draft pick from this year, and it was his first career start. So I predicted Philadelphia to win because Robert Griffin III has been extremely inconsistent since he tore his ACL, I think. He had an injury in his first season with the Redskins in the NFL, and he's never been the same since. So I predicted Philadelphia to come out on top because I didn't think Robert Griffin III could carry the Browns through to win this game over Philadelphia. Buffalo versus Baltimore. My pick here was Buffalo because Buffalo won about 7 games last year. They have been near the playoffs, but not quite there in the past couple years. Baltimore has really fallen off in the past couple years since they won that Super Bowl, and I figured that Buffalo would be able to pull this one out. San Diego versus Kansas City. This game, I picked San Diego because San Diego had a bad year last year. I think they only won 4 games. Kansas City, they tend to get into the playoffs, but they end up losing very early on. And this one, a couple of these were hard for me to pick, but I picked San Diego here because I figured that Phillip Rivers would be able to come out and lead this team over Kansas City this week. And it's week 1, so we don't know how these teams are going to pan out, so I picked San Diego. Oakland versus New Orleans. This was another one I had a hard time with. Drew Brees, he's getting older, but he's still a pretty consistent and good quarterback. Derek Carr for the Raiders, he's an up-and-coming quarterback, drafted in 2014. And the Oakland Raiders are an example of a team that's in the rebuilding phase. New Orleans is kind of one who's falling off a little bit because their guys are getting older, but they're still a fairly decent football team. But I picked Oakland over New Orleans. Tampa Bay versus Atlanta. Last year, I guess they're in the same division, but last year I seem to remember Tampa doing better against Atlanta in head-to-head matchups, but I can't exactly remember. Jameis Winston he was a great player last year, and I figured things could only get better for him. Atlanta, they tend to start out strong, but they fall off at the end of the season, so I picked Tampa Bay in this matchup. Cincinnati versus the New York Jets, I picked Cincinnati because the Jets, we didn't really know what was going to go on with them. Cincinnati, they also tend to have a really good regular season, but they always lose in the first round of the playoffs. So based on stats, I figured Cincinnati was going to start out the year strong and take down New York. So I picked Cincinnati here. Green Bay versus Jacksonville, I picked Green Bay for pretty obvious reasons. Green Bay has been in the playoffs year after year after year. Jacksonville, I don't even remember the last time they were in the playoffs. It's been a really long time. Although this team is one that could end up being good in the near future, I picked Green Bay. Miami versus Seattle, I picked Seattle because Seattle, once again, it's like the last matchup. They've been in the playoffs consistently for the past 3 or 4 years. They still have Russell Wilson. Yes, they lost Marshawn Lynch, but they still have Russell Wilson. They still have their defense, and they still have lots of their offensive players too. Miami, I don't really know what's going on with them. They still have Ryan Tannehill, but they have not made it to the playoffs in quite a while. And based on how they did last season, I picked Seattle over Miami. New York Giants versus the Dallas Cowboys. This one I had a really hard time with because New York, they have a new coach this year. Eli Manning's still there. Victor Cruz is back from injury. So last year they didn't do so well. And Dallas last year was just horrendous because Tony Romo was injured like all season. And they had lots of quarterbacks come in, but none of them could finish the job. This year they have Dak Prescott, but we don't know how he's going to do till we see him play his first game. So Eli Manning, we know what he's going to do, so I picked New York. And Detroit versus Indianapolis, I picked the Colts because these two teams are actually pretty evenly matched, but I don't know. This was one of those ones where I just had to pick, but I didn't really have significant reasons for picking one team over the other. I just figured that Indianapolis was a stronger team than Detroit, so I picked them over Detroit. New England versus Arizona. I would have picked New England had it not been for the fact that Gronkowski was injured. He was not going to be playing week 1. So I picked Arizona because we did not know how Jimmy Garoppolo was going to do because it was going to be his first NFL start with the Tom Brady suspension. Rob Gronkowski out with the hamstring injury. So I picked Arizona over New England because of 2 major stars that were out. Pittsburgh versus Washington. This was a Monday night game. I picked Pittsburgh because they are always strong. Washington, you never really know what's going to happen with them. They made it into the playoffs last season, but they can have an off and on day or week or whatever, so you never really know what's going to happen with them, but Pittsburgh is consistent, so I picked Pittsburgh. And this was the last game. This was also a Monday night game. This was the Los Angeles Rams versus the San Francisco 49ers. I picked Los Angeles because Los Angeles last year, I guess neither of these teams was really strong last year, but the Niners now have Chip Kelly and Blaine Gabbert is the starting quarterback, and I didn't think that everything was going to pan out for San Francisco. LA, they started Case Keenum over Jared Goff. It's their first game in Los Angeles, but they played in San Francisco, but first game back as the Los Angeles Rams. I just thought that Los Angeles was going to take this game because they're a stronger football team and they have a coach that has typically good defenses. So that's why I picked Los Angeles. So those are my predictions. Thanks for watching this video. I'm going to hopefully get up my results video from week 1 fairly quickly, but I don't know because of my schedule, so I'll do my very best. But thanks for watching. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. Leave some comments below on what you'd like to see next. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'm hopefully, if my schedule doesn't get too bad, I want to post some NBA videos. We're now about 36 days away from the start of the NBA season, so I wanted to post some videos about free agent moves for each of the teams, but we'll see what happens because of my schedule. But I'm going to keep doing this in the meantime, so make sure you subscribe to get all these videos. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.